Welcome to the We Have More Than We Know podcast with your host, Michael Ray.
So I got Austin's roommate with us, and so we're going to be doing it a little bit differently because the Telegram's being weird, so it's not allowing him into the room. So he's going to be speaking where I plugged him in essentially. So hopefully the quality and the sound is good. We'll test it out at first. But Danny, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep. How's that sound for everyone?
That sounds pretty good.
Decent.
Hi, Danny.
They just said, "Hey," so this is going to be a little weird because he's not going. I don't know if he's going to be able to hear questions, but I'll reiterate questions as we go. But so Danny, if you want to give a little bit of a rundown into, I guess, your I won't say background, but you were a roommate. He calls it roommate because it's a lot of this is dispelling the legal fiction. So Danny is very brilliant with breaking these terms and legalese down. So I kind of want to slowly get into that, and we'll do questions once he gets going. But what's going on, Danny?
Everything's good, man. I mean, my main thing is to, hopefully everybody can hear me. My main thing is to kind of like brief everyone and inform everyone on the language and the art that they use at these courthouses and how they trick people into their deception. Now, I've experienced it through the state and federal level, and I've actually walked myself out both places. I've walked myself out because from the beginning, from the beginning, when a person is getting pulled over by a police officer, the first thing you want to do is not give them authority. And there's a question that they always ask you, and they ask you along the whole way. And you pay attention to this question now that I'll tell you. It's when they ask you, do you understand your rights? And do you understand the charges? They're going to ask you, do you understand your rights when the police officer pulls you over, starts reading you your little fake rights. And then when you get to the courthouse for your first couple of hearings, the person in the black robe is going to ask you the same thing, but just switch it up. They're going to ask you, do you understand the charges? If you say you understand that, you're saying, hey, you consent to the proceedings. Your job is to always say you don't understand. They're going to get mad. They're going to get frustrated. It doesn't matter. It's all an act. So when a police officer pulls you over, he's going to say, hey, sir, you're being detained. Start reading your rights. But he's always going to have a witness there with him. You'll always see it's not just going to be him. It's going to be a witness. Because when two more people there, it makes it legitimate. So he's going to have a witness, which might be another officer, most likely. And they're going to ask you, reading your rights, do you understand? If you say yes, it makes it official. They forward that paperwork, and it's the start of their process. Then they get you to that first hearing, that initial hearing, and the judge, which we're going to call him a judge right now, but I'll tell you who they really are. The judge is going to say, oh, you're being charged with this. Do you understand the charges? Well, you're supposed to say no. And also, there's going to be a podium right there. There's always a podium with a little microphone. If you go inside that podium, you just consently walked yourself into prison. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to stand outside that podium. So far away from that podium, they have to kind of like draw you back with their hand. That's all they're going to do. They're going to like motion you back. You stand right there in the middle of the floor and you say you don't understand the charges. They're going to get frustrated because they know you're not playing the game. It's a game. And all the pieces have to be there in place. If one piece is out of place, that's going to be you. Now it's going to be you. They can't play the game. And that's how simple it is.
So that's why. So when you mentioned, you brought up the backup police officer. I see that almost every time. You see the one
Yeah.
officer, and then the backup is always there within a minute or so. So they're waiting until backup shows up, so they have a witness.
Yes.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Wow. Okay, so you mentioned the judge, and I know we spoke about a little bit. We spoke to the whole "your honor, my honor" thing. Can you elaborate more on that? What power are you giving to the judge? Right.
This is the thing. When you step inside that courtroom, everything is dealing with kings. You got to understand, like, they're playing this mind game with everyone, and there's one king taking authority of another king. That's why they say all rise. When you rise, you're giving up your authority to that king.
Wow.
That's why the attorneys and the prosecutors do that. All rise, everybody stands up, hail to the king.
Wow.
But you're supposed to remain seated, and that lets that king know that you're not there to play. You're not there to play their game. They're gonna like shrug it off, like, "Oh, you're not doing anything." But trust me, it's very powerful when you stay seated. Sometimes you might get the courthouse security that'll come over to you and tell you need to stand up. You don't stand up.
That's amazing, actually.
The first thing you tell that courthouse authority that tries to come over there, you have to ask them, "What is your position in this matter?"
So you're talking to, you actually do respond to them?
Yes, if they try to talk, first of all, you don't speak to anyone but the person in the black robe. Don't speak to anyone. Don't speak to the prosecutor. Don't speak to the attorney. Speak to that person in the black robe, because the business is between you and them.
Right.
That's it.
And it's all transactional commerce.
Yes. If anyone tries to speak to you, you tell them, you look at them, and you say, "Hey, what is your status?"
What will their response usually be? Or what?
They don't have status. That's the thing. You're letting them know you don't even have status.
And does that go back to the public law 772?
No, it goes to this. No one in that courtroom has the status to be there. No one. You want to know why? Because none of them can bring law into that courtroom, because they're not in their proper status. They're in their corporate ward status. So in order to bring law into the courtroom, you have to be in propria persona, meaning your sovereign capacity. None of them are in their sovereign capacity. They're in their corporate ward status. So a corporation can't bring law because they didn't create the law.
Ooh.
That's good.
I like it a lot.
So the only person that can bring law into the courtroom is you. You're the one that has the power. You have to go in there with the power, because it's all spiritual at the end of the day. So the spirit, in their spirit world, they see you with the power, you will always prevail. It's guaranteed. It doesn't matter how it looks on the public side. Behind the scenes, they're going to have a real conversation and debate about you.
Absolutely. And so is that why both attorneys or legal representatives are assigned to the bar, or bar attorneys? Well,
they're all part of the same organization, and they keep amongst themselves the rules of everything, how it's played. It's like I just make up a board game. I come up with all the rules. I get other people involved. We can change the rules at any given time. So that's not law. So what you do is law trumps legalese. They come in there with a language called legalese, which is fiction. Legal is fiction. It doesn't exist. It only exists in your mind. You go in there with the law.
So now when you say law, you're saying different language, right?
You go in there with the language.
Okay. And a lot of I know a lot of what you mentioned. So you said that a lot of their magic is essentially just black magic, Black's law. So
yeah, it's just wordplay.
Wordplay. Okay. And if you can, would you go into a little bit about like the wordplay that they use, like the word government, for example?
Well, when in the federal court system, we have a thing called a prosecutor who will, first of all, when they open up the hearing, let me tell you their little secret. I'm going to tell you their secrets, but you have to use their secrets wisely. You have to use it. Don't abuse it. This is their secret. When they open up that hearing, everyone has to place their status on record, and none of them do.
So when you ask their status, you're forcing them to.
You don't force them. They don't have the status. They will stay silent. And silence equals acceptance.
Oh, now that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So when you see these legal challenges where they're saying, okay, we know, here's the proof, and like now this is probably getting off topic. People won't really gather exactly what we're talking about, but with the private attorneys general you'd mentioned, where they had used the 14th Amendment bounty hunter clause, when they're accusing or pressing these charges against the court, when the court doesn't respond, they're essentially saying, yeah, that's all true and we can't defend it.
So how do you force them? Is this the thing? Forcing them to comply fully has been their stall method. They love that because they know, first of all, they're not even operating under what everyone thinks they're operating under. They're just operating under bar policy. That's it. Stuff they made up tomorrow and changed tomorrow. It's all their bar policy. But they're saying you're a member of their organization because you gave them consent. At the beginning, they have you sign a financial affidavit. Okay, so if you broke the law, why are you signing a financial affidavit? And they will respond by saying, oh, we want to know that you're indigent, you don't have enough money to do this. That's a lie. Because if you read the paperwork, that's the thing. No one reads anymore. They sign. When you go to a grocery store, protect your signatures. That's all you need to do from here on out. Protect your signature. So you won't be bound by an adhesive contract. Read it. Sit there and read it. Say, hold on a second, sir. Let me read this. It will scare the crap out of anybody that you say that to, because now they know that you're paying attention.
That's amazing.
So when the attorney comes to you and gives you a financial affidavit, guess what? If you look at it now before you sign it, it's already marked on there. Felon, charges, all this and that. And at the bottom, right there, what does it say? Under the penalty of perjury. So when you sign, you're purging yourself right there. You're committing a felony. And they let you do it.
Because that's you falling into their trap.
Yes. You're saying you're that person, charge me. You're saying charge me. When you get pulled over by a police officer, guess what? When he says sign right here, we're going to let you know, this is to let you know you've been da-da-da. That's a lie. They're told to say that. Some of them don't even know that they're making you sign like that. Wow. What does it say before you sign? It's already marked. Charges. You're going 100 and something miles an hour. Da-da-da, this and that. Then it says sign. The second you sign, you consent to it. You say, I'm guilty. Charge me.
Wow.
It's an admission of guilt. Your signature is an admission of guilt. Do not sign.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
Because guess what? You can go to any courtroom, and if you don't have a contract with these people, you tell them, I don't have a contract with you. Present the contract. It's contract courts. There has to be a signature. There has to be a contract in place for them to adjudicate. Well, if you didn't sign, there's no contract. What are you adjudicating? I don't have a contract with you. Produce the contract.
Wow.
They don't have one.
So that's why all these cases are civil. They become civil.
They're all civil. Yes, everything's civil. They just say criminal, but there's no criminal statutes ever created. They just say that. The bar created that. The people inside the Bar Association created criminal statutes. Well, you can't create anything without approval from Congress by both houses.
That's the original Constitution law, you're saying?
Yes, and let me tell you something that will shake the foundation of the courtrooms in the federal system. All the United States codes was never passed. None of them, not one of them. I don't care if you see it today. It was never passed. It was never properly passed. There's no paperwork that could ever be pulled up and said both houses agreed on it. There's paperwork that's going to be pulled up that said only one house approved of it. But you have to have the Senate to approve it too, to make it positive law. The Senate didn't approve it.
And they were adjourned sine die, right?
Yes. So none of the United States codes was ever passed by the Senate. No. And if you could show me proof, I'll give you $100. I'll give you $500 if you can show me proof that all the United States codes was properly passed. I'll give you $500.
What about the 14th Amendment?
The 14th Amendment is null and void. We have the paperwork now from the Library of Congress under seal that said it was never passed. We have it under seal, and no court can break anything under seal. That's why any document you ever want to get to present to a court, go get it from the Library of Congress under seal and present it to them. Place it on record. It's over.
So the formal copy of it is the one that you get from the Library of Congress that says sealed.
Yeah. Well, a copy works also. It's
Yeah,
under seal. It
certified
shows
copy.
it's like this is yes. A certified copy is sufficient. And it just shows like, hey, we're hip to your scam, your game. Your game was only put together by words. We're done playing your word game, and this is how we're going to proceed.
Wow.
It's not trying to take down. It's not about that. It's about knowing what you need to know. You need to know this.
Right. Knowledge is power.
Yes, but it's power if you use it properly. It's easy now.
Right.
It's easy to know and it's easy to use it. We have to balance it. We don't go around trying to act like, oh, we're bigger than you. We just know you get pulled over. You tell the police officer when he comes to your car window, say, I do not wish to contract with you. Do you have your business license? Just keep saying that to him. That's all you got to say to him. I do not wish to contract with you. He's a contract enforcer. He's there to enforce a contract you signed with the state with your license and driver's license. That's all he's there to do.
So that's why they brush it up with the lights and the logos and we're the police of this.
They have to make it look. They have to make everything look real. So they put lights and all that. When you get pulled over, you could tell them straight up, "Hey, what's the emergency?" I've used it. I'm telling you something I've used and made them all stand down. What's the emergency? Well, what do you mean? Well, your lights are on. Those are only emergency lights only. What's the emergency? He knows right then and there he's dealing with a real person.
Informed individual.
About all that, all of this and that. Can I see your driver's license? But for the record, sir, I do not wish to contract with you. You have your business card, so I can make sure you are who you say you are.
So you're forcing them to.
We're not here for that. They're gonna give you the kick around. You got to stand your ground. It's not being hard or tough. Stand your ground, sir. I do not wish to contract with you. Do you have your business card? Step out of the car. They're gonna have to force you out. And still then, let me tell you how you could shut down the whole little operation. If they try to mess with you and all of that, they take you downtown and pristine. You don't give them a fingerprint. If you give them a fingerprint, you're consenting to the proceedings. Don't give them a fingerprint. They can't force you to give them fingerprints. That's your personal property. Don't give them anything. They're going to let you go. You don't give any fingerprints and don't answer any questions, they're going to let you go. They might put you in a little small room, a little cold room or something like that. Who cares?
Right. So it's just a corporate game, and your fingerprints are another form of your signature, which is why they put the baby's footprint on the birth certificate the other birth certificate.
Your signature on every document is consent. If you don't have any signatures, they're going to let you go because they know they're committing fraud. They're infringing on your personal self now. And they know in the divine world of law, the divine law will always prevail, will always shut them down. They know that. They know that you have someone called the divine law that will always back you up and make everything right.
Wow. So you're stepping into their world in their courts, in their world in their prisons, in their world in their police cars, but those are all just moving commerce, which is moving the corporate version of you. Once you agree to
it has to look good. Everything has to look.
Well, let me pause, Danny, real quick, sir. I got one question really fast. I'll get it from Kevin and then I'll relay it to you. Go ahead, Kevin.
From what I understand, you're not supposed to even hire an attorney because when you hire an attorney, you're basically buying into their system.
So Kevin said, from what I understand, we need to get to a point where we're representing ourselves, because when you're hiring an attorney, you're giving up your legal rights to represent yourself. You're allowing someone who's got essentially bar status to start speaking for you and on your behalf.
Right. You don't want to be in that system.
You don't have to self-represent yourself. You don't have to. You could say this certain stuff by not giving them consent. It doesn't matter. You don't have to represent yourself. You could just don't sign none of their documents. You don't answer questions.
I guess his question was more so saying, like, from what he understands, when you do hire an attorney, you're essentially showing the court that you're not in control.
You're telling the courts that you're an infant and a minor. It's like this. Let me tell you something. When they ask you, are you guilty or not guilty, right? They're asking you this. Out of your own mouth, you're agreeing, you're saying that you're an infant and minor. Guilty and not guilty does not mean what you think it means.
Can you elaborate on that more?
Well, when you say not guilty, You're saying you're an infant and minor. That's why they always put in a not guilty plea for you. You're telling me you're an infant and minor. That's what it actually means.
So you're either an infant and minor, or you're.
No, you're telling. They make you say you're an infant and minor. So if you're an infant minor, then we need somebody to come and represent you.
Oh wow, that's crazy. So infant and minor. So it has nothing to do with age. It has to just do with
Your capacity, your mind, your mental capacity.
Whoa, that changes the whole ballgame.
So they say, "How do you plead, sir?" The average person like, "Oh, I pleaded, I'm not guilty." Okay, we put a not guilty plea and they make it look all fancy and stuff. In the back of their minds, they're just laughing at you like, "This dude just said he's an infant. Get him somebody to represent him."
So incapable of defending himself, which is why they have to. Which is why in I know in Austin's hearing specifically, they had to determine whether he was capable of defending himself.
Yes.
Wow. So right off the rip, you really can't even defend yourself until the judge gives you permission to do so.
You don't need permission from that king. You are the permission.
Gotcha.
You tell the thing goes with how you say it, how you word things and how you do things. You're running the show. They're just not going to tell you that. They're going to be scared of your like wordplay. You're going in there and you're actually destroying them without like letting the whole world know, hey, you know what's going on.
And is that the whole, when they say the business sense of it, right? You have to, you can't get angry, right? Because if you get angry, they can essentially say that you're not within your right mind.
No, don't get angry. Just be polite. Kindness kills all that. Just be nice and polite. And you just go in there. You step outside the box. How do you plead, sir? You said, "I plead for the record, my honor. I plead. I do not wish to plead, but I am innocent." A plead means to beg.
Wow. Bargain.
To tell you, hey, beg. I want you to beg. Here, beg.
Like a dog.
Yes.
Dog comps. That's wild. So when you say my honor, why are you saying my honor versus when they try to make you say
your honor? You're giving him authority. You're saying, hey, you have all authority and power over me. When you say my honor, you're going in there with the law and you own them all. My honor. Just like if you have a car, it's my car. It's yours, right?
Right.
So you claim everything as yours, meaning you're running the show.
So
when you say your honor, that's what they're doing. When the prosecutor, "Oh, excuse me, your honor," they want you to follow suit and give up authority to that person.
Play their game.
They want you to. Yeah. If you hear them say it, you're gonna want to say it. They're coaching you the wrong way.
Because they're not. Their intent is to never teach you. Their intent is to keep you blind.
They can't.
Now, can you speak to that? Go ahead. Say that again.
They have a saying. They abide by this thing called 7 CJS. Their first duty is to the courts, second the public, third the client. You're always at the bottom.
Wow. 7 CJS. So not only is it just that way, but also within these fake I won't say that word. Within these fake laws, 18 USC, right? They've got specific US code restricting these attorneys from actually speaking on these subjects. Yeah. And so how do they I guess one question I would have, which I haven't asked you yet, how do they threaten them with prison time? Is it because they are choosing as attorneys to participate in this US code?
Yes, it's called 18 USC 472. Now, a person would look at that like, well, it doesn't say attorney on there, but it says that if they know they're committing fraud, that they're all committing fraud.
Willfully,
knowingly. Some of them knowingly are doing it, and some of them don't know they're doing it. A lot of attorneys don't even know this is going on. A lot of judges don't even know this is going on, but you have to make them aware. You have to say the right language so they go to their bosses and their bosses start like fixing things for you because they know you know.
You know what I think? I think will really open up some eyes is when you mentioned the all caps and when you're writing a message in all caps, which because we always see Trump tweeting, he's always tweeting in all caps. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Caps. When you write a letter to the courts, always write everything in all caps because you're letting them know it's not about law. It's not about law. It's about business. Caps comes from capital.
Cap it all.
So you can definitely do. Caps, you write everything in all caps. Caps is capital. You're dealing with money, banking. You're letting them know, hey, I know this is a banking matter. So when you write in all caps, you're coming at them the same way. You're coming at them in their capacity.
So there's a reason why Trump probably tweets in all caps.
Yeah, because he's dealing with business.
That's pretty crazy.
Any documents I do for a client, I do it in all caps. I write in all caps.
Now you say client because that's someone you're helping, you know.
Yes.
But
well, they're a person. They're I consider them friends. Anybody I get involved with, I consider them family and friends because they're going through a situation where they're being deceived, and everyone that's deceiving them need to stop.
Right. But the only way they'll stop is if you show them that you know their game and you've got it understood.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, I mean this shit is mind-blowing.
We don't just I don't just do a process for you. I see it to its very end. Your remedy is not to be messed with. Your remedy is to make them know, and then so if they want to, they'll think twice about messing with you because you know the whole game. You know what they're doing.
Now I'm going to ask you a couple questions because I want to just really get into it. But when you had to figure this out, you had to figure it out on your own because from what I've seen, you initially started out. They had assigned someone to you, or how did that process work?
No, they never. This is the thing. They never. They had someone on board from the beginning. The case never. I read paperwork. This is what they did to me. I read paperwork that said I was under no contractual obligation with the court. Let us know if he has any medical issues. But they didn't release me because they was like, we got to make a lot of money off this. He thinks he's smart and all that, which I wasn't in it for that. But I saw paperwork that says I wasn't supposed to be there, but they still kept me there.
So they showed you this paperwork and you read it, which is not something people normally do.
They didn't show it to me. I saw it in a folder when they came to visit me, and they didn't know I read it. I read it with my own eyes, and I was like, these people are really grimy. So I was like, okay, I'm good. Next thing you know, they send me off because of the stuff I was doing. They try to isolate me from everybody.
So they kept sending you from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, moving you around in prison to prison, trafficking your commerce, essentially.
Yes.
Because...
And then when I get there, the lady says, there's nothing wrong with you. We're sending you back. I was like, I sit over here for 4 months and just for you to tell me there's nothing wrong.
Wow. So that process goes on for what, a good amount of time. Then you end up in Florence around October, November.
This is what they did. They send me back, and then I asked again for self-representation. I was denied 3 times self-representation. I have it in black and white. I was denied 3 times. Even when I went to their evaluation to see if I was competent, which is all wordplay, they still said denied. So I knew it wasn't even a case. It was just like, we're just going to mess with him. It wasn't a case. The case was done and over. I killed the case at the beginning.
Now, do a lot of people in the system that are in prison, do a lot of people know about this, or are they all being...
No, a lot of them, this is what they do to them. This is the sad part that they do to people. They mess with their minds. And I'm going to tell you something that they do, which is very sad. When they get them into their system, they mess with your minds through the food and the juice that they provide for them. Most of the juices that they have, they're mind altering,
substances.
Yes, and if you read the side effects of it, it has 15 side effects just on the juice alone. Whoa. So when you see someone come in there, all of a sudden you might start seeing them get retarded after 3, 6, 9 months. And what it does, it paralyzes the mind into fear.
Wow. So you went in there and you saw all these, everyone, in your situation like you, but they were not acting like you. You were using different words.
I was wondering, why are these people they come in normal, and next 3, 6, 9 months later, they're either scared, they start making animal noises, and they start acting super weird. What's going on? And I saw what they were doing. So you weren't being affected by it. You weren't maybe you weren't eating the food or whatever. You weren't speaking like they want you to speak, right? Yes, I was actually on the outside looking in. That's how I felt.
And then essentially, so Austin gets put into the same block as you, and you'd mentioned that he seeked you out, right?
Well, for some divine reason, we were on both each other's frequencies. So we met. And in that frequency, I could tell it was meant to be. Somebody said, hey, if you want to, you may want to talk to this gentleman. And then when I heard him speaking, I knew he was a very intelligent person. He stood out too much. You're just too smart for your surrounding. So I said, hey, let's go here and talk. And from the day I spoke to him, it's just true. He's a very intelligent person. So when I seen that intelligence, I didn't want him to see the hidden dangers of everything that was going on.
You didn't want him to feel any kind of fear.
I didn't want him to drink the juice. I didn't want him to eat certain stuff. I wanted him to like not be distracted. I wanted him to avoid the dangers.
And you just had some premonition, some sort of message that guided, divine guidance that drove you to know that you needed to speak to this person.
Yes.
That's intense.
He learned from me and I learned from him. He showed me a lot about, the departmental stuff, the governmental stuff that was going on. That, I'm intrigued. I like to know the truth about everything. I like to know the origin of everything. Because we all have an origin.
You taught each other.
It's good to know. Yes, we all have an origin. So he has some very good information that, blew my mind on that part. And I was just kind of coaching him through this invisible world that they place everybody in. It was invisible. Nothing existed there. And nothing done. And
so how did you get to being roommates, I guess?
Well, it was just, it's a divine way, because the universe is going to move pieces around to fit. If you're good frequency, you're good people, you're going to be on the same frequency, and you're just going to you're going to be good friends.
Going to resonate.
Yes.
That's pretty wild. So what was the process of getting to be roommates, I guess? How did that go?
Well, the universe moved his roommate out that was kind of like just out of control. He was drinking the juice. I call him they were drinking juice, and I'm serious. It makes those people erratic. It makes them act strange, behave strange, and they want them. Oh, look, he's acting strange, but you guys are doing it to them.
Wow.
You're intentionally and purposely doing it to these people and playing dumb about it. You're making their minds go like this. You're making them spaz out and get all paranoid and crazy.
And that doesn't even include the medications they give them. They don't even realize. Wow. So do they try to break you if you are someone who does know or you're onto their game?
Yeah, they try, but you have to get all your power from where power comes from.
Within.
Which is the universe.
Right.
That's where you get your power from. So you meditate every day, you meditate about the right things, and guess what? Thoughts go through walls. Just because you're in a box doesn't mean you're nothing. You have to train your thoughts to go through those walls and get everything you need.
So they're really just mental barriers, and eventually you'll break the physical barriers.
If you're not distracted, because every war is won by distractions. So if you put a mouse inside of a box, that mouse is guaranteed to get out of that box. Guaranteed. Doesn't matter how big, it's going to get out. But if you put a Ferris wheel inside that box, guess what? You created distractions for that mouse. Now he forgets all about getting out.
Oh, okay.
So what they do is they put a TV, video games. We're going to put this, music box, all this and that. They're distracted.
You forget the whole fact that you're not even supposed to be there because it's all their game to begin with.
Yes. You start programming yourself, and then they create a language for you called incarceration. And if you use that language and you're distracted, you're stuck in that world.
Now that's kind of like when you said when you write in cursive, you curse yourself. You're saying
yes, they always want you to sign in a certain kind of lettering, a certain kind of font, which is what?
Cursive.
Yes, but say it slowly.
curse.
Yes, that's what they want you to do to me. It's a spiritual warfare going on in that courtroom, and they want you to curse yourself without knowing you're doing it. Because by the time you curse yourself, it's all over. It's already over.
Now, when you spoke on the black ink versus blue ink, that kind of blew me away too, because you always see at the top of these cases, you'll see that they're printed in blue ink, and I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I know you'd mentioned that when you sign off the line and off the page, that's and also don't sign, in cursive. You sign. How is it that you said you
sign any document in mid-air, nowhere on the line, because the line is in mid-air and all cap.
So kind of like maybe when you see the president and he's making the air cue. Maybe you haven't seen that, but when he's signing the cue, everyone thinks like, oh, he's not doing that. He's just doing a circle. But like he might actually be doing a cue, like an air cue in front of everybody. You're saying that's empowering yourself.
Yes.
And what's the part about the blue ink? Why does that come in? How does that come into play?
That's that color travels into the spirit world. That's the spiritual side of everything.
So I know
they operate in that realm. That's why you see a lot of rappers. It's a spiritual effect to it. That blue.
Okay.
When they sign in blue, everything you see around you is blue, blue this, blue that. In that facility, all blue pens are outlawed. You can't use it anymore.
Really?
Because it has power to it. Yes, it's outlawed. They will not let you have a blue pen.
Is that the whole color of law thing?
Yes.
Wow. So colorable courts.
When the attorneys sent you documents, it's signed in blue.
My gosh. I wish I got in trouble more so I could see more of this stuff, but that's crazy. So colorable courts and colorable money, that's a part of all this. So maybe the way they're moving their bonds in your name is considered colorable money. I don't know. That's just hitting me right now. I'll probably have to look into it more. But. Well,
anytime a judge signs anything in black, that's a fictitious document because black is death. It doesn't exist. And he knows he's doing it. He has a fraudulent instrument. But pointing it out to him, they're not going to okay, here, we'll fix it. Just like, okay, whatever. So then you have to use more power against these people.
So explain the debt, right? Because a lot of people see that big ass number, $28 trillion, $29 trillion of public debt.
Well, that's just for show.
That's their use.
Yes, because they're actually the ones creating the debt. Because what they're doing is, if you look at like most of these cases, like we've shown, these cases have like millions and billions of dollars attached to it. Like millions of dollars attached to it. How's there a national debt? I mean, just without doing the case, you're paying these, you're so-called paying these rappers, basketball players, football players, all this money, and there's a national debt. Stop it. That's just for the mind. That's for the people who's like really sleeping. Oh, I got to pay my debt to society we owe. It's to make them come out of pocket more. It's a mental like game that they play on them.
So they're going to pay the actors or the distractors playing professional sports, right? That's a huge distraction. So they're going to pay them obscene amounts of money so that, it's a limited capacity. Not a lot of people make it in their field. And what they're doing is actually a talent and nice to see, but I mean, it's not that nice. It's not like.
No, what I'm saying is there is no debt.
Right. No, I get that part, but I'm saying because there's no debt, they're able to go around paying people obscene amounts of fake paper money.
Yes.
Wow. So that I think there's a Henry Ford quote where he says if people really knew how these banks were operating, there would be I think he says riots by morning.
Absolutely.
So how did you figure out about this process where your court case was assigned a bond number or whatever? How did that process come to be?
Well, when you're kicking somebody around, you don't even know what corner you're kicking them to, what part of the what part of their proceedings you kicked me into. You kicked me into the knowledge part. You kicked me around so much. I started figuring everything out because I wasn't distracted. I wasn't eating the stuff that made me retarded, and I became more powerful. They actually didn't know how powerful I was becoming.
Right.
So I kept that power hidden and used it when I needed to use it. Okay. And then a friend of mine was like, hey, I'm kind of tired of playing with you in there. You're not supposed to be in there. Let me show you what it's all about.
Actually, now, did that process happen over pen or over the phone, or?
What do you mean?
Like, how did that person get to telling you that you weren't supposed to be in there?
It's been a friend of mine that knew somebody, his circle. And then I'm explaining to him, they're like, what? They said, well, I said, yeah, bro, they indicted me 9 months after being in custody. 9 months later, that's when they indicted me. Not indicted me. They sent me to an arraignment 9 months after being in custody. 9 months. Then you go to an arraignment. Come on, you're playing with me. What do you think the universe is gonna do to y'all?
Wow. Okay, we got one question. I think Tony was. Did you have a question?
Yeah, well, I did. And I don't want to spark anything that's. It's on topic, I guess, in a way. But so what you were saying about there's no debt and everything like that, how does that fall into play with what we're looking at with the change of, currency and stuff going into electronic or whatever else, and the Rothschilds and all of these people that own all of the quote unquote wealth,
right. So the question, Danny, was essentially, how does the debt or the national debt come into play? How do we go about, exposing that? And, if the wealthy people, it's all part of their game and their creation, is there a way to break that essentially? I think was that the question, Tony?
In a way. I mean, it's like, how is there not debt when we're saying?
So I guess his question is, so how essentially is the debt fictitious, and how do they go about? I mean, obviously that's a pretty deep question, but I guess speak to, if you can, Danny, the bonding.
We don't know if we need to or whatever. Come back.
Well, has anyone ever asked them to show them proof that there is a debt?
No.
Has anyone seen where the debt is coming from? And when you ask these people that's in power this question, they won't produce the paperwork. You say one thing, but show me. Okay, show me everything in black and white.
Show me the receipts.
Yes, and you'll see it doesn't even exist.
No, that's 100% true because the Treasury debt. If you look at Treasury, you look at the Treasury bills, Treasury debt. You literally can go to the Treasury website right now, and if you look up the first year that there's official receipt debt on the books, it's after the 14th Amendment is passed in 1969, and you will see the first year we have actual public debt on the books, and even it's at department.gov, you will see it's 1869. And that's the 1 year, that's the immediate year after the 14th Amendment was fictitiously put into place. So, of course, they'll say, oh, there's receipts before that, but they're all bullshitting and lying. And I know that from being in the financing, mortgage securities industry for 12 years. So I guess the bonding, right? You mentioned bonding and putting you in bondage, right? How are they, like, I know you don't know too much about how they're doing it, but they are doing it in the names of all these prisoners.
Yes. What they're doing is, from my understanding, what I've seen is they're using your signature. They get you to sign, but by the time you get arrested to the time the person gets out, they signed hundreds of pieces of paper. Why? If you broke the law, why you have to sign? Well, what they're doing is they're taking your signature and putting it on a white piece of paperwork and putting your signature on financial forms that you never see.
So it's all insurance to cover up from their fraud.
Yes.
And then the insurance backs up their illicit activity. Everything has insurance, right? And that's probably the original form of spookery, I'd call it. Banking spookery was insurance, right? Before any of this other stuff happened, they were giving each other forms of insurance and insuring certain amounts behind a shell of shell of a corporation that if it goes belly under because it's not profitable, nobody's going to lay claim to that because the board of directors disappears and there it goes. It's just an offshore entity. So it's a shell company.
Absolutely.
So it's amazing that like this whole system is built up on this giant lie and this giant game that they've established. And with regard to the courts, I think a lot of people are curious when it's like admiralty and common and all these different types of courts. Where does the civil aspect of it come to play? Because I know civil rights really started to become a big thing that people were fighting over in public, at least around the 40s, mid 40s to the 60s, right? And suddenly you had all these different bills passed. Can you speak to that at all?
Well, I don't know too much about that part of it because I just know that everything is civil because the military let the laws with the military. So this is the thing. The military let these people set up civil courts. That's it, not criminal courts. The criminal part is left up to the military. If you break a military law, you've actually committed an actual crime. The rest of it is contracted. The military said, you guys can go out there and contract with each other and do commerce. That's it. So a lot of these corporations was like, hey, let's start policing the community and stuff and saying we're the law enforcement when we're really not. And we'll get permission from the military, certain parts of the military, to do this. The military came back to them and said, hey, you guys don't have the authority to do this. Oh, but we train them good. We train these officers good. We have everybody complying. I was like, okay. But if they find out you guys
it's obedience.
Yes.
And so the way to break this system of corporate tyranny was to finally get a president in there who wasn't of the system.
Exactly.
So Trump gets in.
Austin spoke about that, which made a lot of sense when he said, like, just with his whole little program and how his the quantum computer and everything plays a big part in it, and it makes perfect sense because Trump was put there from the future,
right?
And
based on what the quantum computer is telling them. Here's the action reaction, or here's what their move has been. Here's the moves we can make now. So it's
yes.
predictive programming, game theory.
Yes.
Wow. That makes this. I think that makes this all make a lot more sense. But obviously we've got to learn and read and absorb information that's true and that resonates.
Okay, let me tell you this also. Every indictment is supposed to have a stamp approved from the United States Treasury on the back of it, authorizing that commercial, authorizing that instrument as valid.
That transaction is valid, okay.
Yes, because everything has to be funded through the United States Treasury. Where's the United States Treasury stamp on all this?
Not there.
It's not there. So they're creating these fraudulent instruments and using your signature and saying you gave them power of attorney to take care of their estate for them.
Wow.
To take care of your estate for you. That's how they're doing it. So
all those indictments being placeholders makes perfect sense because the whole system is fraudulent. So someone, when and if and how we expose this truth, there's going to need to be placeholders of the republic form of government to keep or retry a lot of these cases where in the most case, most people should probably just be let go. But with regard to, murderers and, I'm not a judge, but I'm just saying with regard to keeping the peace, right, that would explain a lot of why there's these insane number of indictments that just keep piling up.
Yeah, that's the answer as I
This is what
understand
the
it to
courts
all
are
that.
doing. The courts are passing around counterfeit securities, trying to liquidate your estate to affect an insurance payment.
And they just keep doing it from bank to bank to bank to bank.
That's it.
And it's not even that far-fetched. It's really not even that far-fetched. If you look at the 2008 crash, the real estate crash, AIG and Lehman Brothers were the two that tanked, but those were the two that were set up to tank. They were set up to fail from the start. And who paid everybody out? Who gave these people a break? The break wasn't given to us. The break was given to them, the banks. And what they do with it, they gave it to each other. They gave that money that was taken virtually overnight out of every single American's 401k. Nobody went to jail. Nobody paid the price. They bankrupt two banks, but that was after the fact, after they had already moved the ownership bonds and divvied it all up among themselves because they're greedy bastards. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. And I mean, people's houses went from being what they call above water to being underwater. They started giving people the ability to refinance your mortgage at this new low interest rate. But at the end of the day, it's like, what do you mean refinance? You guys fucked up. My house value is low now because you fucked up. Why am I paying for what you did? But I know that because I did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of loans, people were taking it all day long because it was $100 to $200 break on their whatever they were paying a week. That's $200 less than what they were paying, and they don't want to lose their house through bankruptcy. So, of course, sign on the dotted line. Don't even read what it says. Moving forward, moving on. And, you know, this is what they do, and they've been doing it for so long. I just can't believe that it's happening in the name of prisoners and in the name of the American people, too, which I think we'll get to exposing. But that's this.
Can't lose.
We can't, exactly. So Kevin just said we can't lose. We can't lose. We have them pinned. They have no way out of this. The only way they have out of this is the mainstream media. And those motherfuckers are clearly morons and obviously in the game, in the take. So at the end of this, that's why they say these people won't be able to walk the streets. Not because we're going to threaten them or hurt them. No, but just because we can't control other people once they realize what the scam has been. Holy shit, dude. I mean, this is bad. This is really bad. And the good thing is we have solutions. We can be problem oriented in terms of, okay, these were the problems, but now it's switching to a solutions oriented task, right? We got to switch our mindset. We got to dissuade and get away from worshiping and needing someone to guide us or fix these problems. Because if we can't do it ourselves, if an average individual can't do it, then the system's broken anyways. So we need to rebuild or refix or reorient the system no matter what. And I think it starts with us. It starts with the people. It starts with educating. It starts with guidance and seeking out one another, helping out one another. I think Danny's back, but
stop playing their game.
Exactly. Okay, keeps disconnecting. Hold on.
Michael, I have a question for Danny when he comes back.
Sure thing.
And you got him. Yeah.
So essentially, we're all in a monopoly world, playing monopoly with monopoly money and monopoly laws, and we're actually sovereignty, and we need to remember that, right?
Yeah. So Wolf's question, Danny. Yeah, it did cut off, but you're back now. The question Wolf had was essentially we're playing with monopoly money, and essentially we're playing their game. But how does the sovereign aspect come into play with all this? Because in the beginning. And I'll elaborate a little more on his question. In the beginning, right, the original sovereign government, the government they're portraying themselves as, that doesn't disappear even if they did bankrupt it or write it off or whatever they tried to do. How do we reestablish that sovereignty? And I know you have a really good details with the sovereign citizen aspect because you mentioned it's not sovereign citizen. It's actually just sovereign. So do you speak to that?
Well, this is the first thing. The word government, everything's written in Latin. Latin is the original language. So if you can break down the wordplay, you can figure out exactly what they're saying. And the word government in Latin means governo, translates to governo, which then translates to mind control. So when they stand up and say, hey, I'm blah, 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 representing the government, and you got to ask them, don't just go off that. The government of what?
Right. And a lot of people will say,
like, oh, the government, we're scared of them. The government of what? Like what government, bro?
Right. And a lot of people too, like a lot of things you'll say if you Google it or whatever, the Google results will be, oh, this is not, this is government translation, a direct translation. I hear a lot of people say this. Conspiracy theorists say it means mind control. Okay, fine. We won't go with that just for a second. Entertain this. We won't go with the fact that it's mind control when you break it down, the actual legalese of it. But let's just say, okay, the direct translation, imperium. Well, imperium, that's for kings and queens. That's for monarchs. So it doesn't matter. Any way you want to take it, govern and being governed is not something the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence stated, right? It's being given being afforded your inalienable rights because there's something that's given to you by God, right? Not by another man. So consent of the governed is a subject. It's a subject thing. That's a king and queen thing. So and I believe it's within the first 2 minutes of the Declaration of Independence. If ever the institutions that are formed around men get to a point where it is no longer pursuing happiness, it is no longer enabling the ability for us to pursue our own happiness, then it is your right, it is your duty to abolish that form of government. Now, I'm not saying that's the route we're going to go, but I mean, that's what they wrote into the Declaration of Independence. Why'd they write that in there if we weren't supposed to do that? If tyranny, go ahead.
It's coming to a halt anyways. A lot of stuff they're doing is because more people like, yourself and, your everyone that's on board here, they want to know. The more people that know, the more power that is created. Because it's when more than two people are passionate about something, it creates that third force. That's the force that completes everything, makes everything complete. So you have more than two people on here that are passionate about this. That's why all of this is going to work. You're creating that third force, which is the energy force of all. Without that second person passionate about it, nothing happens. So now you have more than two. You have a powerful circle that's going to create the action that you're looking for.
So we don't even necessarily need their YouTube and their bullshit programming, their bullshit tools that they want us to use. We need to get out into our communities, touch one another, and connect with one another. Be creative, find these solutions, and just know that the answer will come just so long as we have the will and we have the faith.
Yeah, as long as you have people that are passionate about something, you'll always prevail. You're going to prevail.
That's amazing. And so even when you were put behind bars and it seemed like all hope was lost, you just willpower. I
had to connect with one other person that was a friend of mine, and that's what made everything go. He started giving me remedies. I started figuring out on my own. It created a power, an invisible power that nothing could stop. You have to create that invisible power. You and another person talking passionate about something is going to always create the invisible power. You need that invisible power to make what you're doing perfect. It never fails.
And so when they try to cast their spells, right? Their wordplay, their scripts, like you were saying, their magic that they try to dispose upon you. The way we break that mold is by standing up and being courageous and knowing that there's an army behind you, but they may not be there right now.
Well, what's behind you, what is also always should be with you, is the universal law. That's a law that doesn't change for no man, no clay, no dust. So when you have that universal power, that means your intentions are so good that whatever your outcome is that you think of, it's going to happen. Just be humble, meditate, be grateful. As long as you're grateful, you're going to prevail. Be grateful you get the information. Be grateful you're finding a remedy. Be grateful every day, every moment. You're going to get more solutions. Like, don't ever get up any day and say you have a problem. Don't ever say you have a problem. Always say you have a solution. Only tell yourself you have solutions, and you're going to get nothing but solutions. If you start telling yourself you have a problem, guess what? You're going to have more problems. Don't ever say you have a problem. Just say I have a solution. Let your friends say they have problems and watch them have problems, but they're going to watch you have solutions.
And it's not just cheap talk, right? This is someone who is literally in federal prison and
in a box, buried alive, pretty much in concrete.
So you have no ill will. Obviously, it upsets you, right? And it bothers you, but you don't wake up in the morning and say to yourself, fuck these people, no. I need to get back at them. You're saying to yourself, no. I need to solve this problem because mankind can't move forward. Mankind can't fix what needs to be remedied if we focus solely on the problem. And that plays into their hand again, right? We're going backwards basically if we do that.
Yeah, I won't have any ill will towards them or anyone because it's not my position to have that. My energy, my frequency has to match that of the universe. The universe is not negative. There's nothing evil about the universe. You just have to match the frequency. You start looking around and everything matches your energy. So my energy is about, knowing. You place yourself in a better place every day with a good mindset that what you're doing is going to create and free the minds of others. All you're doing is freeing the minds of people around you. That's it. Their minds are locked. You're just freeing it. That right there is all you have to do. You don't have to touch them, physically touch them. Just free their mind.
But touch them, you're touching them with regard to your teaching, guiding, showing. And sometimes people need courage, right? Sometimes people need to be shown.
Yes.
That's amazing. I mean, and I get it now. When you have these conversations, when you resonate on this level, and when you move past all the nonsense and understand that, look, yeah, those are all the problems. But if you are focused on the problems, you're not going to get the solution. The solution comes through forgiveness. And I know that that's not something a lot of people want to hear, but just everyone wants to think, act, and talk like Jesus with regard to the character. Jesus. Everyone wants to say, what would Jesus do? Read the scriptures. Well, what would Jesus do? Right at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure he would do what is best for mankind, and let the rest of the chips fall where they may. And let these children and let these people be free, because as long as we keep focusing on the problem will persist.
Whatever you think of thinks of you. So think of a solution, the solution is going to think of you. You think of a problem is going to think of you. So whatever you think of thinks of you.
Whatever you focus on, you find.
Yes. So what we have to do is, everyone has a solution inside of them. You just have to turn on that switch. Everything you could think of that's wrong with whatever you see, you're creating. You're actually creating it with inside you. That's the secret. Your world that you see, you created it. So if you want to see a perfect world, you want to see everything put together, create it with your mind. All the stuff that you see that's wrong would disappear.
So what would you say to the person that fears putting their creative opinion out there?
I don't use fear.
Well, I mean, okay. So the person
fear is false evidence appearing real. It's false. It's appearing real. There's nothing to it.
So it's this fictitious power that compels you to stay quiet rather than speak out.
Yes. Speak. You have a voice. Speak. No one can bring harm to you, period. When people think of death and all that, it doesn't exist.
It exists in their fiction or in your mind.
It's a fiction world. Your death will never. You never die, man.
Yeah, your consciousness is actually your subconsciousness.
So someone said Will had said basically your consciousness is actually your subconsciousness.
Yes. Place yourself. Always be in your subconscious world is where you need to be at. That's where all your thoughts need to be at. That's what's going to create it for you in the physical world. That world right there, you're creating every day. Don't have any negative energy. If you start having negative energy, just start being grateful. Look around and be grateful. If you're mad at something, stop yourself. Stop yourself, because you're going to draw more of that frequency of energy, and you don't need it. You're here on this earth to be happy, to see everything for what it is, and to continue.
Continue building.
Traveling. Whether in your travel, you're building, whatever form whatever you're supposed to do on this earth, just do it. To be on this channel, to have this enlightenment, you're on the right path.
Absolutely. And the thing that I requested in the last chat was just to have people take what's being said here, take what's being given here, and share it with 1 to 2 people. That's it. That's not that difficult. Find 1 to 2 people that you know will resonate with the message that we've been putting out. Just 1 to 2 people. That's all that I'm asking, right? If you can just get 1 to 2 people to share this message, copy it. I don't care where you put, how you go about it. You can literally take exactly what we're saying, reiterate it yourself, make it into videos, whatever you want to do. Just take it and give it out to 1 to 2 people at least. Show 1 to 2 people it, and just let them take it in for what it is. And if they decide to come back, if they decide to get in on it, get this movement moving forward, then that's it. That's it. We've done it. We've done our jobs, right? Our job isn't to be the person who's seen. Our job isn't to be the person who needs to be heard. Our job is to simply help, guide, show. The rest of it, everybody knows what we want at the end, right? We just want a better world. Everybody I know in this movement just wants to make this world a better place. And it just simply isn't going to happen unless we put our mind's eye to it and we push forward and prevail without any other thought to failure. We do.
Try to add something to the
Yes.
to make
Tony's asking a question. Go ahead, Tony.
To create it, or to try to help make it happen, and to make it come into physical fruition, right? So take your blue pen and start writing down the 10 things you want to try to accomplish. And then when you start accomplishing those things, mark it off and add another thing at the bottom. So you'll accomplish, and you're actually writing it down. You're making it physical by writing it down, right? And then when you accomplish it, you actually did it. And so you made it possible, or you made it happen.
Is that something you do or you practice on a daily basis?
I actually didn't, and my mother did it all the time, and I always wondered how she did everything she did. She had three kids and adopted 6 of us, so we had 9 kids. So I wondered how
she wouldn't be able to add something to the list until she accomplished something from the top of the list.
She just kept on writing it down. As soon as she got something else, she'd write something else. But
I never mentioned taking a blue pen and writing down 10 things that you want to accomplish into a journal, and making sure that you set out to accomplish those things.
Physically, right? So you're putting it into physical.
And Daniel will elaborate on this, because he knows exactly what you two are. Literally, it sucks that he can't hear what you're saying, Tony. But I have to reiterate it for him. But so he mentioned, when you're writing it out, right? You're actually writing out what you want to happen, what you are willing to happen. It's so much more powerful than if you simply are typing it, or if you are thinking it. So can you speak to that, Danny? Like, why is writing it out and blue ink so powerful versus just thinking that you're going to do it or saying you're going to do it?
Well, the quickest way to the spiritual mind is in blue. Using blue. It's something. You see the ocean is blue. The biggest thing on this landmass is blue. They consider the sky blue. There's a reason for that, because it represents the spiritual journey of life frequency and stuff like that. So when you write it in blue, you're actually speaking to the subconscious. The subconscious mind is what we're all connected with. So when you write it in blue, it becomes a little bit more powerful, and it becomes a little bit more urgent. And yes, you write it in blue. I have a lot of stuff that I write in blue, and it happens. And I read it 3 times a day.
So you're reminding yourself.
Yes, before I lay down, 20 minutes before I lay down, I read it. When I open my eyes, I read it again. The first 20 minutes when you open your eyes is when you program your day. The 20 minutes before you lay down and close your eyes is you're programming your day. So the last 20 minutes, the first 20 minutes, program your mind how you want your day to be. And in the middle of the day, read it again. And it's going to happen.
Wow. That's definitely, I can commit to that. Go ahead.
You did that with other people, say your family or even your friends, and then you did that. So then you're telling them what it is you want, and then you hear what they want. Well, then everybody starts helping each other to attain those same things. So just like prayer, except it's more open.
Wow. So he said you do that same thing with your family and friends, and you tell them together. You go over what your tasks are, what you're wanting to accomplish together, and it starts to grow. Basically, it becomes more and more powerful.
Yes. You have to have one more person that shares that same passion with you. It becomes powerful.
So that's why we've been led to this idea that we need to be secluded, we need to be sequestered, we need to be on our own. Less contact, right? The whole COVID thing. Don't go outside, don't interact, don't be with each other, don't communicate. That played right into their hand. But now. Yes. Now a storm's coming, and Mike had a question, so I'll let him go right ahead, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. First, my compliments to Danny. Second, did he utilize Parsee syntax grammar at all, and what relevance for Parsee syntax grammar does he see going forward?
I've heard about it, and it's very powerful. It's a very powerful tool, but they don't acknowledge it.
It's not part of their coding.
Yeah, they're overriding it when they should stop and cease with that kind of formula. That's a very powerful formula, but I've seen people use it and they do nothing about it. And I'm like, okay, why are they overriding some of the most powerfulest formulas out there? But then you got to realize you're dealing with private. Every attorney is actually called a private debt collector. And ever since a prosecutor was ever a prosecutor, their original duty, it says right there, to recover all fines.
Right. Which is I think in the last episode I mentioned the Illinois Attorney General page showing that his job back in the 70s and 80s was to actually recover assets and even in one case a chattel of the crown. So
yes, recover fines. So we're not dealing with people of regular law enforcement, because the law enforcement uses an affidavit. They didn't even acknowledge affidavits anymore right now, and they've actually suspended the use of what is that thing called that you can actually use?
Writs?
They make fun of it. Writs. They suspended all writs, but there's one writ that you could use that's very powerful, and we're in the process of getting our hands on that. That writ they stop too.
Wow. So essentially the quantum syntax works. It's better. It does. There is something there, but the people who are playing this game are like, we don't acknowledge it because it goes against what we want.
Well, they're just not being forced to do it. I don't know what it is, but they're not even you could do it, and they're just not gonna hear you. Because
it's not beholden to their system. They only care about their money and their shareholders, and their shareholders want profits. So
the only way to get at these people is to follow the money. I had a gentleman through the universe connect with me and say, hey, you ever want to get these people, just follow the money. So when a friend of mine showed me the financial part of the case, it just started making perfect sense.
So if we work together and we start finding these courageous people among us, which is what we're doing right now, but seeking out these people instead of saying to ourselves, oh, nobody higher up in banking is going to stand up for what's right. They're not going to tell us what we need to do. Well, that's not the route I'm taking. I'm reaching out to people. I've never in my life known someone that actually owned or ran a bank. Now we're setting up to see if we can have a meeting with that person. would I have ever imagined that happening a year ago? Hell no, because I never would have allowed myself to think that that was possible. But now, hey, we're changing up the game. We're shaking the way this thing's being played. We're going to destroy the foundation in terms of the way they're playing their game, and we're going to build up a new process that works for everybody. And that's one step at a time.
Sorry, it's storming here.
Well, when you start speaking their language and you're on their level, then you start making progress. And the only way to do that is through their
beds,
through banking.
And how all that's gonna.
It's just affidavits used to work back in the days. Now it doesn't.
Go ahead, Danny. Sorry.
The affidavits used to work back then, and very powerful affidavits. I've seen affidavits so powerful. I was like, oh my goodness, everybody's going to jail when they read this, but it doesn't do anything.
Right. And so would you say that it doesn't do anything because the law is broken, or would you say it doesn't do anything because it just simply isn't being acknowledged?
It's not being acknowledged. They don't even they don't care.
So a lot of the cases that were being put forth during the election, fraud, they don't care because it's not the outcome they want.
Yes.
So a
lot of stuff, they'll just do it for show anyways. Oh yeah, there's still legitimate courts. No, it's not. That's all for show.
Right. And so
we're suing Trump. You can't even touch Trump. All his families are nationals. You can't even touch him. He put everything inside of a trust. You can't touch him.
So he's untouchable.
He knew this was going to happen.
Right. So he's been doing this for quite some time, obviously.
Yes. His whole family are national. Before he was even president, he put everything inside a trust because he knew that they were going to come after him.
Hey, so to solve the problem, they needed a businessman that was provided.
You need somebody that's not them. To drain a swamp, you needed somebody that was outside looking in. He's not Trump said it pretty good. He says, I'm not a politician, I'm a businessman. What is the United States of America?
A corporation.
And it's a what? It's a business.
Yeah.
So you got the guy that's actually going to fix everything because you have the right person that's matched in that capacity.
And now for the story, right? Because every character, every good story needs an outcome, a solution. And so he isn't trying to be the savior. He's not trying to be the one who gets all the credit. He just wanted to do good. He wanted a better world. He wanted to make America great again, right?
He's the face. He's actually the face. There are some people at the higher ups that made that call. If they sought him out and know he likes to speak his mind. Yeah, sometimes Trump, with my opinion, he was there as a distraction while they just started like the people that's running the show on the good side for everyone or doing everything behind the scenes.
Right. So like the hidden hand was doing it.
Because he sees they need to do that.
Right. So like the hidden hand was doing it, right? Moving things around without us knowing or without our consent. Now we needed a face for that movement. So it's kind of hooky spooky because people are all been out of shape about who's the face of this Q movement. But what they're not getting is that unless it's tangible, unless you can see it, unless you can touch it, unless someone can come out and say, I am Q, this is my movement, then it's just a fictitious story. It's just a story. And while people want to say that they resonate with it, or it connects with them, or they don't really like that that's who it doesn't matter what you like. It doesn't. I'm sorry. It's his story. It's what he did. He stood up. He was courageous despite losing everything. His wife, his family, his everything, his life on multiple occasions. He almost lost his life. And I don't mean to sit here and harp on that, but it's like you have to appreciate that. It's like, it's honestly, it's not worshiping. It's just being thankful. It's being respectful.
Absolutely.
You know, like it's kind of like saying, oh, well, yeah, that my cousin or my brother was lost in this war or that war. Okay, so you're saying your cousin or brother doesn't matter because they died fighting for what they believed in? No. So thank God this wasn't something that happened to Austin in this process. Thank God he was able to prevail. Now we just got to bring this thing home for him because he got us here. He brought this to this point. So anyone wants to debate on that, we can do that whenever wherever. But I'm just saying, humble yourself enough to understand that what people do, despite who's watching, absolutely matters. And if not, then we wouldn't have someone like Donald Trump. If not, we wouldn't have someone like Austin Steinbart. If not, we wouldn't have people like JFK. These people would have just cowered, bent over, and allowed things to just be the way they were. But they didn't. So I think that it's an ode to them, and not saying that we need to stay struck on that for long. But what these people want more than anything is not recognition. They don't want fame. They don't want anything from you other than to help them finish the mission forward, and just bring this thing home. That's it. And so, that's my 2 cents of on that, I guess.
If I could say something real quick, you said like so freaking well. That was like really articulated like perfectly. But the thing is, like, in the meantime, like, a lot of the seeds have been planted with a lot of the sleeping people. So like while we're waiting and everything, it's like everything that he said, it's not just something like you just hear one time and learn. Like I think this is something that everyone that's like hearing this should really reflect on and try to like soak in and absorb, because this is like a very like inward process right now, and like while we're waiting, this is the best time to be looking inward.
Yeah, absolutely. I got better at relaying what was being said. So in the beginning, I was not doing this properly, but I've never done this before with an interview over the phone while I'm holding the phone. Actually, I have.
Hey, I have to like cut out here.
No, you're good. You're good. I think this was great. This is absolutely perfect. I thank you for doing this.
The platform to share information. I thank everybody for listening.
Absolutely, we're going to keep listening. We're going to keep through your guidance, through others' guidance, and through just connecting people, bridging the gap, bridging the differences, coming together, and creating the storm that we're building up one by one by one, episode by episode. If it takes every day for the next whatever amount of days it takes, that's what it takes. But I appreciate you, man. Thank you for everything you've done, and we're going to help get those questions that you're seeking and the little holes that are still there with regard to this process. We're going to figure it all out together. So, God bless and thank you, dude.
All right, thank you, man.